Hello and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host Scott and I'm not alone. Chantal's here too. This episode we're talking about Brandon Sanderson's Elantris. Though this one is fairly spoiler free, just keep in mind the very nature of talking about books means inevitably there will be one or two spoilers. But if that's okay with you, continue on. I'll see you on the other side. Cola. Chantal.
Scott, hello again. It's been a while.
Yeah, a little while. Today we are talking about Brandon Sanderson's Elantris.
Yes, we
which
are.
I think I messaged you to do a while ago, and then
And then we got swamped into this weird thing called life and adulthood.
And
Adulting is a trap. Don't adult people. Don't adult. It's a trap.
I don't like it. I don't want to do grown-ups. But also, it's kind of a beefy book. Huh? I got to be honest. I think I read about 3 or 4 books from starting this to finishing this. I think a couple of small ones and maybe a couple of equal-sized ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a sign on the book or just reading habits.
I don't know. I tend to read about. Well, I have a tendency to read 5 books at the same time. So.
Okay, normal for you.
Yeah, normal.
I'm trying to clear my big bookshelf, so anything that's physically oversized. So some of them aren't necessarily that long; they're just hardbacks. But so some of them, they're really nice. I don't know if I'm going to want to keep them for the sake of looking nice, but I'm not too big on keeping books I've read.
Me, yes, it depends. It depends if it's a book like I know I'm going to reread or that I really really loved. I'm going to keep it.
Right.
And some of my books are literally hanging together with duct tapes and prayer.
Yeah, my Elantris copy. So Tor, it's like released by Tor Fantasy, who do a great cheap paperback. They're pretty good price.
Yep.
But mine kind of fell apart in one read.
Oh no!
Like I've had to sellotape the edges and stuff.
Yeah.
And I sort of, we can talk about Brandon Sanderson, who he is in a bit, but I'd never heard of him, and then he just spiked up. And then suddenly this guy who everyone's raving about, and he's done 16 books, at least just in this one universe. And he's sort of said he plans maybe 40 and other singular projects he's done, not included. And so just reading about random ones, I just really liked the idea of them. And so I started buying them because they were cheap paperbacks. And without having actually read any, I find myself with his entire Cosmere collection, like a drawer full of books. And I got a bit nervous, like, what if I don't like them? What if it's
okay.
like
if you don't like them, you bring the book back to a secondhand bookstore.
That's true.
The wheel continues. Like, I mean, it's books.
Right. So I guess we can talk about the setup for the book. Because it sort of opens with about 2 or 3 pages.
Yeah.
And so we open on this city of Elantris, and it's like a golden white pearled city, and they're sort of super beings.
Yeah, they're like gods, and they have like, they don't need to eat, they don't need to drink, but they do because it's fun to eat and drink. I mean, I can relate to that.
They
being
just
a
want to be
supernatural
hedonistic.
being, like, yep, I'm gonna eat. That's gonna be fun.
Because I don't know if they live forever at this state, or they just live for a really, really long time.
I think they live for a very, very long time. They just disappear into the vast nothingness once they want, when they're tired or something.
But they're kind of enlightened, right?
Yeah.
Like they're sort of all-knowing, very, very chill, as it were. And so just randomly, people are just selected from surrounding kingdoms.
And it could be like, it can be an old person, a young person, it can be a child. And it's not anywhere in the kingdom. It's only the kingdom of Arelon.
Right, the neighboring.
And they had mini city at the beginning. That's what you learn as well. They had like 4 or 5 city filled with Elantrian people. And now we're stuck with just one, that is Elantris, that is right beside the capital city of Arelon.
We're in this city of enlightened glow-skinned. I guess they did kind of sound a bit dull, and I don't always want to throw back to the Lord of the Rings, but I guess they were just images of like the Elven city in this, and in that I mean very quiet, very like, you guys gonna have a party or a rave, like I guess we said they like to eat and be hedonistic, but
it's like you say, it felt, and I don't want to jump back to Lord of the Ring because that's
right, because
Lord of the Ring is the statement. It's the statement. It's the basic.
Right, we get 2 uses of it, and we've each used one.
Yeah, but yeah, it felt a lot like, I don't know. We had this great civilization that was Elantris, and we're standing on the ruins of it, but we as a reader don't know Elantris, like the city of Ireland, like Prince Raoul and his friend, and like, okay, now you're in Elantris, and even the prince himself is, I don't know what Elantris was because they died 10 years ago, kind of.
Right, because someone kind of hits an invert button over the city of Elantris.
Yeah.
And instead of becoming heavenly, you become hellish, right? You just become wretched. Just one day, the city turned black, literally and metaphorically. The walls grew a sort of mold.
They got splotchy faces, like as if they were bruised, and they turned like they don't have hair anymore.
No, they just sort of became in a perpetual state of death.
Undead.
Right. The random choosing, the shayod kept happening. So people would now just randomly wake up like looking like death. And the surrounding cities didn't know what to do and freaked out. So they just put them all in the main city of Elantris and shut the gate and don't really interfere. There's guards to stop people coming out.
Yeah, and they're just like, oh, you've been cursed, so you're now dead to the world.
And so that's the first 4 pages.
Yeah, and okay, you're like, okay, that's I would have wanted a bit more of an introduction, maybe, just to understand. I think I get why Sanderson used like, oh, this was this glorious city and people lived there. They were like gods. They were the Elantrian, and then they died.
Right.
Because
I think he kind of, from what I gather, and I haven't read it, does a similar invert to his next book that he would release in the Cosmere, the Mistborn trilogy. I just haven't read the back. It's about a hero who would unite the people, but then he failed. Right?
At least the story picks up. At least you try.
I guess he's very hooked on playing with the archetypes that we know of, and then flipping it.
I just feel, and I had difficulty getting into it. It took me a bit of a long time. Maybe it's the fact that you follow 3 characters, and yes, they are intertwined, but at the same time, you're seeing 3 visions of the same situation from different point of view. And I know George R. Martin did the same with Game of Thrones, and you follow different character, and then you come back, and at one point you're just like, okay, that's interesting, but I wanted to know more about Elantris itself. Like, it's that big city, and it's dead now. What's happened? We don't know. And yes, we do realize, I'm not going to reveal a spoiler. We understand what happened. But at the same time, you're like, okay, but where do they come from? Why are they there? And okay, it's different way of manipulating magic. You see his power as a narrator, as okay, once you give him chance, okay, so we go through that part we need to study for the exam, and then the action picks up, and you're like, oh, okay, I did not see that one coming. I did not see that one coming. Oh, that's interesting. Right. Oh, okay. But I'm still wondering why is this character acting that way? Why is that character doing this?
So then the book jumps 10 years, like all of this, the enlightenment of the city, and then the Sheol, the reversing, and everything turning bad, because the book suddenly says that was 10 years ago. So then we cut to the now, and we have the 3 characters. Do you want to introduce us to Say two, and I'll take the third.
I'll tell you the two I remember, and the priest. Unfortunately, I forgot his name. I'm sorry, Mr. Priest. So we start with the prince himself, that is Rao, who is heir to the throne of Arelon. And he woke up one morning. It was very, very dark, and he was very, very hungry. And he didn't check himself in the mirror, because that's happened when you wake up. You know, you don't have your coffee, you're hungry, you want your breakfast. I look like crap, I don't care. And we learn, bam, he has been taken by the Shead. So he's now dead to the world. And he's being shipped to the city of Elantris. And he doesn't understand why he was chosen. He doesn't understand why he has to die, what he's supposed to be doing in Elantris. And then you realize that, well, be careful of your body, because it doesn't heal. Right. And you go mad from the pain and the hunger. Go crazy because they're hurting so much and they can't die. That's the terrible thing. You cannot die. There's a Elantrian at one point just get beheaded, and his head is hanging by a strip of skin, like nearly headless Nick. Harry Potter reference. Yay! Still lives. So you're like, fudge, that's not cool to be an immortal if you're feeling every pain and can't heal.
Right. Any pain. I think early on he stubs his toe, right? And it's always used as the example throughout the book that any pain, any scratch that you feel will never go away. And so if you get too bruised, it just builds.
Yeah, it just builds up on top of everything else. And well, it's everything, like the hunger. If you think too much of the hunger, it's a big thing. And you learn that the city of Elantris has been split into 3 factions. One that has started eating books because they were made from human skin. So they started eating leather. And
industrious, I like it.
I mean, at one point, when you're hungry, you're hungry. And there's another part. The city was run by a woman. That is, later on, you learn that she used to be the wife of one of the city guard. And the third one is ruled by a child who's absolutely went crazy.
Yeah. So outside the world, it's like shame on your family if you get it right. So you're bundled in under cover of night.
Yes, you disappear. It's
everyone
like
just says, "Oh, he died in his sleep, or he fell off a cliff. He didn't get the Shayard."
Yeah,
which you think
would
just be.
He was not contaminated. And whereas 10 years before that, I think it was a celebration. Like, oh yeah, we have an Elantrian in the family. That's awesome.
I do think I would be suspicious of 10 years. Some people die naturally. We go to the funeral. It was nice to know him. Some people die, but they're mysteriously just no funeral, no bodying.
They were so disfigured. Like, no, we cannot have an open casket. I'm sorry. Cremation is a new hip thing to do. Let's burn the body. Yeah.
We never really go anywhere with this paranoia. After this sort of opening scene, if memory serves.
Exactly.
There's some little twist and nods later, kind of around it, but it just never sets up the prince to be Raoden, sort of having his life ahead of him, thrown in. And so another important thing, I guess, is everyone's told he died.
Yeah, and that introduces us to the second character.
I will say about everyone being told he dies, no one really mourns him. Everyone's so worried about the cover-up because if you get the Shayard, it's like worse than death. So I don't understand why people aren't sadder. Like, God, I wish he had have died. And people aren't really down about it. They're all about the cover-up. And no one particularly
his father is worried about the cover-up because I think his friend don't know he has been taken by the Shayard. The king himself, like, oh my God, no. Yeah, King Aiden.
We get so many words, names of places with an E and an O. There's like Arlon, Rodan, Havren, Iodin, Fortune, Galadon, Elantrian, Daladin, Brandon.
If you look at the end of the book, you have actually, those are some of the magic that you can use in the story. And those are based on, it's the Aeon, that
Right.
are like the sound or word of power.
Yeah, we'll get onto the magic system later.
Oh, no, that's another. Yeah.
But so that's
I should have brought more beer with me, but sadly I'm stuck with water. It's very, very hot outside. So
regarding names of places and such. I very Britishized them. I think I took personally all the flair out of all the names. Like, I think I was just calling her Serene, and I don't know if it's like Serene.
Yeah, me neither. I was like, okay, is it Serene? Is it Serene? And then you have a nickname that is Ini. Is it Ini? Is it Ine?
Right. She's one of a lot of names.
Yeah, and at one point I was like, okay, who are you again? And go back.
So yeah, that's Prince Ryodan, Rose,
Rowden.
And then tell us about Serene.
Yeah, is a wife that, like the reader, just arrive in Arelon and is like, well, I was supposed to get married and now I'm a widow. That sucks. And she was supposed to become the queen, and it was in a political attempt to stop the emergence of Sudereth religion. That is a very warlike kind of.
Right. Kind of to save her hometown in a way.
Yeah, it's very rich, but lack a very good guard people. They don't have, I mean, let's be honest. If you look like you, yeah, they're eating. It's a merchant city. Everyone is concerned by status and how much money you have. And like, yeah, but you're weak. They're kind of like weak-minded, and
it's all kind of a facade.
Yeah, it's very sad place basically. And she arrived there, and she's concerned because she's what? I think she's turning near, she's going to be 25, 30. She's going to be soon a spinster. And that's for me as a woman, it's very disappointing because, oh, she's a strong, independent woman, and she's know how to fence, and she takes part in politics, and no man wants to marry her because she's not frail and delicate. And like, oh my God, not this again.
Right. I think I singled this quote out talking to her father. It says, "Father, I'm 25 years old and I'm blunt, conniving, and oftentimes offensive. You must have noticed no man ever sought my hand." And this is the ultra tall, like she gets singled out for her height a lot. The ultra tall, I think she's described as pretty, right? Like she's a princess.
She's a princess, and I know the prince himself is very taken with her. He enjoys the banter he has. She likes the fact he's taller than her, and that is that's surprising. Ooh, like yes, lucky. Woman. I mean, some guy really enjoy tall woman. You're like my best friend is 6 foot, and her husband is as tall as me, and I'm a very tall woman at 5 feet 3 inches and 3 sneezes. But I mean, the fact that she's singled out compared to the other women, and I'm like, that is such a trope in fantasy, that if a woman is outspoken, is independent, is conniving, is blunt, is like, oh, she's unmarriable. And like, but why? It's a fantasy setting. Why is
especially
that?
Because from her kingdom we get the sense that she's not standout, right?
Yeah, except the fact that for herself, maybe she thinks herself as being not attractive because she's not frail and delicate. I think it's when she was supposed to be married the second time. And it's the old man that tells her, like, you put yourself down a lot and you compare yourself a lot against the other women, but no man feel like they're afraid of you or they don't find you attractive. You have to stop with the mindset, like, and at the same time you're like, yeah, you're 25-year-old. If you're different, I mean, I'm sorry, it's the second teenage crisis of whoa me drama. But yeah, at one point I wish someone like her cousin or her uncle told her, like, okay, stop it. You're not
Yeah.
that bad. You're not that bad.
She's a woman with plans in a man's world. I guess you could argue she has to just offset her thinking. Like she's always dueling, right? Like once from the moment she arrives,
Yeah.
like you said, all the other women in Ireland are like sort of into cross
Active.
stitching and
Oh yeah, and
painting and have
and
zero play in any
and
of
I
the
found
power.
it so funny that she wants to be good at painting and drawing, and she can't, and she's so frustrated by that. And
Mhm.
that was very interesting because, as you say, she's very analytical and she's a
Mhm.
very logical person, and she enjoy dueling, whether by words or by sword. And yeah, no, the creativity is like, yep, nope, not for her. That's And she's like, fuck it. I wanted to be creative. What's that supposed to be? Oh, supposed to be a flower. And like, oh, I didn't know flower came into that color.
Right. Like, so that's Serene,
Yeah.
Serene.
Serene. So
I'll
let's
go.
settle on the way of saying her name.
I've been calling us Serene.
Serene. Let's call her Serene. Yeah, I think I
Okay.
called her Serene as well.
So that's Rayoden and Serene.
Yeah, and the last one is, and now you're gonna notice that I am French speaking. If you didn't pick up on my accent, yes, I speak French as a general rule. Harten with an H at the beginning.
Yeah,
That's the priest.
I've totally in my head just made it easy. I've been calling him like Harrison, which doesn't spell out the same at all.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few books where I've done this. I've reorganized the letters in a name to single out and to make it smoother in my head. I have no idea.
I think my brain just stopped working each time I saw his name, and it was like, yep, that priest guy.
It almost just became a symbol.
Yeah.
He's like a high priest.
It's like if we were to put it as Catholic religion, I think it's not the Pope. The Pope would be Worm.
Right. The one up.
The priest, the prophet, the incarnation. The
incarnation.
Yeah, the incarnation of Jadet. And he's missionary.
Like a cardinal.
Cardinal, kind of like is the big boss of all the priests. Because he arrived and he expect the red carpet and have priests that just follow him everywhere and just being in awe of his armor and like, oh my god, poor guy, you're walking around in armor.
So he kind of arrives the same time as Surian.
Yeah, and he's like, disappointing.
And his job is basically convert the entire kingdom.
Yeah, or die trying.
Or the kingdom is going to be wiped out. And he's got about 3 months, which kind of sets the timepiece of this book.
Exactly.
Which, when you get through the book, it feels like maybe 3 years have passed. I don't know. We'll talk about the middle of the book in a bit.
Yeah, no. For me, it was like, that happened in... How long did it take part? And for me, it was like... Did that take part in a week? In 3 days?
I did a poor job, I feel, because suddenly it was snowing and they talked about the end of autumn. And I'm like, it just felt out of the blue. Suddenly, I would just remember distinctly the talk of snow and me thinking, I've been picturing summer for this entire time.
Me too. And like, okay. I was going to say, I think he's my favorite character in all of them, in the 3 of them. Because... so surprisingly, his character arc was the most surprising for me. And I like being surprised. And unfortunately, when you read a lot or watch too much movie or play too many video games, you get to the point where you start a book and it's gonna end like that.
I try not to give heavy spoilers, but I'd say of the 3, 2 of them kind of finish how they started.
Yeah.
With a wise understanding of the world and have a few lessons, but pretty much in the same position as when they started.
Yes,
right?
So it was like, okay, we went around and got back maybe a little bit on the left.
Right. Yeah, he's moody.
He's moody, and I like the fact that for him it was a personal challenge because he just arrived from another country, he just converted, and it was
Mm-hmm.
bloody, the pure sense of the word bloody. There was a war, and the country nearly got destroyed, and he's like, never again. And he's questioning his fate as well, and he's being
Yeah.
questioned by the other priest that from the other religion that is not Suderet, that is Su something else. And the other priest is like, when did you lose your faith? And
Mm.
everything when you follow him is trying to prove himself that yes, I am a true believer, but there's always a but. And I think he enjoyed the banter with Serene as well because she's the only one that they're challenging.
Right.
Is either being taken like, oh, give me your money, and yeah, you're gonna put me on the throne, and I'm gonna be the big boy here, and I'm gonna follow you, and I'm gonna help you convert people. And the other part is like, fudge that, you're just a diversion, and I'm gonna be killing people on the side. Yay! And the poor guy is there like, I don't want to fail because otherwise they're gonna die, but they're so stupid.
Like his character, there's a lot of I guess God versus religion, the ripper part of him being part of an organized religion, which is he's drifting away from the beliefs despite believing in God. And so I guess one thing that kept throwing me up was the literal positions of Elantris and Aeon. Sometimes I'm picturing like basically the same city with a giant Berlin-style wall.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like, so are they a few miles apart? Because sometimes they would just go and stand at the wall of Elantris and look down like it was like a big prison in the middle of their city.
Exactly. And like, okay, but there's a wall around the city. Who built that wall?
Just move further away from that horrible plague pit.
If you people get taken by the Sheol and you don't want, I don't want
it's
that.
It's a short walk, I guess.
Yeah, take a walk.
I guess we can talk about the middle now, right?
Yeah.
Raoden meets like his little group, which is Galadon.
Yeah, Galadon is the first one.
And it's like, I really liked him, but it's like, but you're just Raoden.
Yeah.
And my problem with a lot of the characters is that they're very chipper. Man, nothing gets these guys down.
My God, Raoden was laugh at himself like, yeah, my friend keeps saying that I was too optimistic. No shit, Sherlock. So that was like with Galadon, like, yeah, you think?
Yeah, but Galadon's pretty likable.
Yeah, he felt like an old granddad.
He's the first person Raoden meets, so he sort of guides us around the city. Like, you literally have to enter Elantris with a small bag of food, and your only chance of survival, it turns out, is chuck the food and run the other direction, because from that gate, 3 different gangs will just try and attack you for your food.
Yep.
You just have to run and not hurt yourself in the meantime. So him and Galadon, they kind of play out like tomcats a lot, no?
Yeah.
Like, they're often just sort of running around the roofs, sort of causing mini mischiefs of the gangs. But I guess Raoden feels a calling, knowing that he's preparing his life to be a king. And I think the city sort of believed he was the one who was going to unite them a bit. The current king, his dad, is kind of a bit of a joke.
Pretty much joke. I mean, and he turned to witchcraft.
Yeah.
So that was like, where did that come from?
Yeah, that was very out of the blue. I know there was the nods of noises in the wall, but when it was revealed...
For me, I thought it was Raoden walking around, like just, I'm going to go and check on my...
Yeah.
Future widow, ex-wife thingy, and finally it was not that at all, but it was just a blip, like, we hear some noise in the walls. Okay, but they use that hidden passage, Raoden, and I'm gonna have to look for the name of the other leader, Kala something.
So Raoden basically starts trying to unite Elantris. He tries to get them organized. I think he just tries to unite the gangs. And I think he starts really investigating what the hell happened. And
and he's the only one. And yes, Galadon is helping him a lot.
Pain in the ass at times, isn't he, Galleon?
Huh?
Pain in the ass, Galleon. I feel
Okay.
like if he'd have started this investigation a few years ago, he might have got where he ended
But
up.
I think Galadon got not depressed, but yeah, he's a bit fatalistic. Like, oh, it happened. And they're always joking about the fact that is the only guy from Duladel that is not joyly and joyful and cheerful and is quite the opposite. It's like he's dreary, he's sarcastic. It's just like, oh yeah, que sera sera.
Yeah, Colo, right? He's got a catchphrase.
Yeah.
Which I kind of liked it. I don't know. He always sort of ends a lot of sentences with, like, he calls him Sule a lot. And he always ends a lot with Colo.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it reminded me of, if you've ever seen Donnie Brasco, where it's like an undercover agent, and one of the men says, hey, what do you keep saying forget about it? Like, I don't understand the context. What does it mean? And there's just funny scene of Johnny Depp just saying, like, hey, it's forget about it. It's like, hey, you stepped on my shoe, forget about it. Hey, it's like, we're going to take this guy out, forget about it. Like, it basically means everything. It's all about the context of how you say it and what came before.
Exactly.
So he's thrown a lot of colors around.
Yeah, Colo.
I mean, I guess in the context of talking to Raoden, he uses it a lot with obviously, or kind of calling him an idiot.
Yep, basically. I didn't understand why Raoden didn't want to reveal that he was Prince of Ireland. Like, he tells Galadon, and I'm gonna get the name because otherwise I'm gonna be
it's gonna be on your tongue
on
for
my
too long.
mind. Yeah, and I'm just gonna be like turning crazy. Karata.
Yes, sort of leader of Gang One, I guess.
Yeah, and she's she didn't turn into madness, and it's the only gang leader basically that just, yes, they attack newcomer to get the food, but there's a reason for that behind
there's
it.
hope, actually. It's not quite all feral chaos as we thought.
Exactly. And she agrees to follow Raoden, and she's like, oh yeah, my husband was one of the royal guard. Of course I know you. Like, okay, so there's only 2 people in all of Elantris that know who he is.
I guess the convenience of position.
I'm like, yeah, did it change that much? Did his face change that much? So for me, it was okay, and he wants to be called Lord Spirit, and that's fine. But why?
I guess because at this time he accepts that he's not getting out of Elantris, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's like he wants to earn a position and he wants people to follow him because they believe in what he's saying and because of his actions, not purely because of a bloodline. That's kind of, I guess, what I get from it. Because like I said, he's like, chipper and ultimately the good guy. He doesn't have many downfalls, right?
And again, that's why is he the one like, oh, we're going to start collecting the seeds and we're going to start a garden. Okay, it's been 10 years. Why has no one think about it before? Like, you have carpenter there. You have people that used to be a farmer. Galadon used to be a farmer.
Like, I do love his challenge when he sort of brings in a guy who used to be like the best shoemaker in the city. And it's like, we need shoes because our feet are aching, but you have to make the perfect shoe in one go, because if we get blisters or if they rub, we're in trouble. So this little shoemaker, I don't know, I really love that.
Like, you're the most important person right now.
Make everyone's shoe fit in one go.
Yeah, and like you said, when Raoden first entered Elantris, he stubbed his toe and like, we need shoes.
Yeah, I think he's talking about that stubbed toe for the rest of the book. It comes back. So I think the other point of note for him is I guess he finds a library. Did I mention this already? He's sort of working in the magic system. He starts drawing the symbols, I guess, with his finger.
Yep.
And it lights up. There's like a flicker and a spark of the old magic is still alive.
And it was the fire. And they're like, there's something like, I feel the energy. It wants to come out, but we can't. And it's like, and he's struggling with that. And it's Galadon who showed him the library. Basically, Raoden also figured out that if Elantrian start focusing on something like the second leader of the gang, the one that was eating books, that was hilarious, used to be a sculptor. And now he's very happy sculpting again, stuff again. He's very happy to do that. And now that he's sculpting, he has found the inner peace, and he's not hungry anymore. He's not going to be turning crazy anymore, because he's just like, oh my God, this is beautiful and this is gorgeous. And there's so much beauty. And
purpose.
Yeah, he found a purpose. And Railden is like, okay, I'm aching all over my damn toe. I'm hungry as I must not go crazy. I'm gonna be drawing in the air. Yeah, hopefully I'm gonna be doing something. And he's always preparing for when he will be turning mad.
I guess that's the one thing that looms over him, is because I think we see people who have been there for like the 10 years, and they are just like a quivering wreck on the floor, right? Like it's just, but you just can't die.
They called him the Aoed, Hoed.
Yeah, the Hoed. Yeah, the pronunciation. I'm sure every reader took separately, along with other names.
I think we're gonna have for this podcast. Okay, let's put subtitle. This is how it's spelled.
We need symbols.
This is how we say it. No, have fun.
And so, in the meantime, Serene is just making political moves. Like we said, she has to stay in the shadows as helpless woman. But I think there's a nice scene where she just wants to be in the big hall to overhear the conversation. So she basically plays it a lot. She plays it dumb a lot. I think she's like, I'm just going to paint in here. And,
la, 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 la.
And like we said, the king is a kind of a fool and falls into it fairly easily. Yeah. But she meets up with her uncle.
Yes, and that's another thing.
Kin.
Why is Kijin?
K-I-N. Kin.
Yeah. Her uncle. But why is he there? Oh, he was a pirate. Why is he a pirate? Why him and Eventeo, the Serene father, the king? Why don't they talk to each other? No.
Yeah. How does the like the next in line for the throne become a pirate?
Yeah, and you're like, what are you doing there? And why did you disappear 10 years ago? Like you say, everything happened 10 years ago, and we're like, but why? And it's never addressed.
No. But so he's a family man, right? He's got like a wife and a bunch of sweet kids, nephews. I don't know.
I don't know, but the food looks delicious, and he was always cooking.
Yeah. I guess there's
we're doing this at supper time, and I'm like, I'm hungry. That's it. That's Elantrian, take me. Shead, take me. I'm hungry. But oh my God, the food. I think Brandon Sanderson is a foodie at heart.
Yeah. He wants to starve. He wants to make us salivate. He's either trying to make us starve or hungry.
He's like the Ghibli studio of books. He wants to show good food. There we go.
But I gotta be honest, he's again very much like a really likable character, and a bit mysterious, but just her version of Galleon, no?
Yes,
he's perfect for like exposition. The massive middle for her is just meeting all these different noblemen, secret meetings to sort of how do we not overthrow.
And they were like, oh yeah, we are the revolution, but now that we lost our leader, we are gonna disappear because
if only
we're very
there was
wise. We are old wise men, but we suck without a leader. And we're like,
we need a young, spunky leader who thinks outside the box and is quite tall. Did we talk about her Seon? She has like a floating orb.
Yes, following her around.
Called Ashi. Ash.
Yeah, Ashi. I called him Ash personally, but that's me. Maybe Ashi. So for anyone who's listening, it is spelled A-S-H-E.
And it's sort of filled with personality. It's got a voice, and it's kind of her manservant. I don't really know how the sort of slavery of these things comes about, because you only really see them with kind of rich people or powerful people or noble people.
Yeah, and they were there in the time of Elantris, and there were seance everywhere. And they are being filled. It's like a global with a symbol inside, and that's how they get their name, basically.
Mm.
So ash as the aeon, the magic symbol of ashy, ash, whatever. And
And
like you said, they has a personality, and they've been given from family member to family member, so they've been
oh,
around for
okay. So
some
they're handed
time.
down. I see.
Yeah, they're
They're
hands
sort of
down,
like a butler,
and they're
like a
basically
telephone
like,
butler.
yeah, it's like Jarvis in Avengers. Yes, new fun name. But yeah, basically it's like a cell phone that you have, but instead of being, you have to
Hmm.
press it, it's just glow and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna Google it for you. Oh, I'm gonna look around for you.
But I kind of liked him. He had some spunk. I guess he could.
Yes.
He was just sort of the only one who could throw down to her,
Yeah,
like to put her in place at times. Because I
yeah,
guess he just grew up with her, knew her.
most probably. And
Mm-hmm.
she respected him as well
Mm.
because he was, well, he was not they were not impressed by her basically being
Yeah, I guess there's a sort of hesitancy to magics, which Ash is.
yeah,
And so the priest, he is making his political moves.
yeah,
He wants, I guess he wants it to happen in peace, but he's like, how do you convert an entire religion across this thing? So he is basically doing the same as Serene, just on his side,
yeah.
making, I guess he's shadier.
Is she here, but at the same time he's more aggressive, like they're being used as scapegoat, like, the poor Elantrian, look what happened, though me as
Yeah,
jaded that failed them, and blah blah, like, okay,
that's his big hidden card, I guess, or his big
yeah,
plan really is to use Elantris as a fearmonger, I suppose.
yeah. And that was interesting with Serene deciding to use Elantris as, no, the poor people are hungry and they are
Right.
fighting amongst themselves, so we're gonna give them food and clothes and
She gets access. She's like allowed, I guess she has to do some sort of ritual for her dead husband, because I guess something we dropped is she's still married to Raoden. There's like a contract. Always read the small print. Even if he dies, they're still married. So even though she rocks up and they've spoken through the seance, and they do like each other, but she's never met him, and
exactly,
he's dead
and even
or disappeared by the time she rocked up.
Yeah,
but she's still married, and the contract is binding.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't know my husband, and I'm a widow. Awesome.
But so she gains access to the city, and she's helping them, giving food, and so all our characters start mingling finally, because she's matching with her the priest a fair amount, and he's onto her fairly early on.
Yes.
Well, not fairly, it's still a couple hundred pages in, but she's undermining him, and that she is to be watched. Yeah. And then, so when she's in the city, she starts meeting Raoden under the guise of the king spirit. Yeah. And he knows it's her, but she doesn't know it's him. She kind of likes him. She's drawn to him because it's still Raoden.
Yeah, and he's very lovable. But at the same time, she kind of resent him. Like, oh, you're a tyrant.
Suspicious.
Yeah, she's very, very suspicious.
But also, like how Raoden's not annoyed, but he sort of come to the conclusion that if they don't need food and that the hunger is kind of irrelevant. So that by feeding them, it's going to make them focus on it, right?
Yeah, you're undermining it. Like you
with
just
the best intentions.
My job, girl.
Right.
But you're kind of cute, so okay, you're forgiven.
Mm-hmm. And so the three spin this ball of trying to make their own moves, trying to anticipate everyone else's moves, undercutting, stopping each other, getting stopped. And the middle of this book gets kind of boring to flipping boring.
Just a tippy.
To points where I didn't know who they were talking about. And the best I could do was, I've got a sense they're talking about one of those noblemen. I've got a sense they're talking about
basically
the nephews.
The priest backed one of the noble that, oh my God, let's go back a bit. So when Eoden, the king, got on the throne, he basically, it was a very, like the merchant class, you had the merchant class, but everyone could be a merchant. And he basically stripped that down and started handling a nobility title to only the ones that had a lot of money, the rich one. And the people that were poor were working a bit like slaves under the rich people. the key to any good revolution, my friend.
Right.
Have paid attention in history classes. So you had this noble that is having monetary issue. And that's how the priests get him, is start bribing him like, oh, I'm going to give you money. That's fine. I'm going to give you money and you're going to be a king. And once you're king, you're going to convert. And once you're converted, everyone will be converted because you're the king.
Get the top guy and it trickles down.
Exactly. Of course, Serene is like, well, no. So we're going to be backing the king. That is an idiot. But we have to back the king. So that's how she's starting. So basically the noble, the priest backed. So now we're entering into spoiler territory.
Yeah, I was going to say,
basically there's the third act open with a big bang. And this is where a lot of the action comes in, actually.
Yeah, almost all the action. Like there's so little physical action for the middle section. I feel like if I could draw a bar graph of my enjoyment of this book, it starts off pretty high. I like the setup of, there was the city, and then I like meeting all the characters. So then it just settles and my bar graph just drops to, below halfway, and it just goes straight. Yeah. So it doesn't get up or down. It goes straight to the very end, and then it just shoots up again.
Yeah, it's just like, wait, what? What happened? And
right.
Everything happened at once. That was
could he not have pasted out some of it out?
A bit. Like at one point, like, okay, this is happening there, but this is happening there, and this is happening.
Like it made for a good climax, but I did have to reread chunks to go. I got to double check. This is the payoff, and I don't want to skim read the payoff or not comprehend what happened.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied come the final, like story wise and wrap up wise?
As you say, I would have liked maybe the second part. I felt the author was placing his pieces for the big climax of the third act, and that's very understandable. That's what second act is. But as you say, it was very, very straightforward. There was nothing happening. Okay, the Serene start teaching the lady fencing. It's never brought up again.
Yeah, there's I guess one moment where the ladies pick up arms, but it felt I don't know, it didn't quite go anywhere. And
like, oh, they got hurt, so now sorry for the French. Sometimes it's slipping. Okay, so Raelden has discovered that he can work Aeon and he can start doing the magic flat. It doesn't go anywhere else.
It just picks up these things and then doesn't run with them for quite a while.
Yeah.
Like I will say, come the end, everything does play in. As a climax, despite it being hit the everything at once button, like it was exciting. My reading became fast because it was exciting stuff. We get all the action. We get all the action of a.
Oh my God, what's happening? But it could have paced a bit more. Like
all the action of a 600-page book in 100 pages.
In the last pages, that this is everything happening at the same time. But I really enjoy when Serene was thrown into Elantris.
Yes.
That was good. That was good because she saw the other side. And
I guess she saw how potentially fickle and shallow her work was.
Well, yeah.
And just surface and not really making a day-to-day difference.
I'm like, why did Raelden ask for this and that? But they asked for cloths to make clothes. That's that's great.
Like he had to be quite sneaky, right?
Yeah, and that they asked for metals. Okay, but why are you using metals? We don't know. Like never mentioned after that. Was it for weapon? Was it?
I thought it was. I thought they sort of started making farming tools. Like he didn't want to say what it was. Sorry, were you not mentioning it for a spoiler?
No. I
thought he was giving her this list of stuff that they could use, but he didn't want to flat out say like swords, or he didn't want them to know they were growing the food.
Yeah.
So I think he had to sort of give them like the raw materials and pretend it was for
something else. Yeah.
When it was actually for something else, which was equally. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were making weapons, and he was pretending it was farming equipment.
I don't remember because.
But I mean, it's that's kind of the thing with this book, right? sometimes events happen and you move on, and if you don't remember them, they're not necessarily clearly stated before they're next used. And there's a lot of information to take in on this, and some of it you can kind of skim, I would say. if you a lot of that middle politics, it's interesting, but sometimes it comes around and goes away within the same sort of chapter. Right? It doesn't it's not like, oh, it came back to play all the way at the end. It was like, we tried something, this failed. We tried something, this failed. And it just drags that middle out.
Yeah, a lot.
But I will say, a couple of days after I finished this, I was really missing these characters.
Yeah, me too.
And just knowing that this book is its own thing in the Cosmere. At this stage, there's no sequel, although he has been talking about it for like 10 years.
The one that is called the sequel is called the Warbreaker.
Oh, okay. So there is something in Elantris.
It's supposed to be the
tie-in.
I'm looking at my bookshelves. There's a lot of books in it, and I'm like, Warbreaker.
I guess I wonder if this had been one book of 3, would the length and the dullness not have minded so much? Like, knowing this was a standalone novel, so much of that middle is like the payoff ends at the end of this book, right?
Yeah. No, I felt if it had been part of a series, I think I would have. Okay, maybe we're gonna learn more about how the priest from Jeanette. Okay, so you have 5 covenant. Okay, one of them is assassin. The other is for the art of war. The other is for politics. And then it's like, we're not going to talk about it anymore.
Right.
Part of a series, maybe we would have learned more about the past of Hartran, learn more about what happened in Elantris before the curse. Why is Krim a pirate?
Right. So I don't know if that's what people like about Brandon Sanderson, because so much of what I hear is his top, thing people like is world building.
Yes.
And I don't know if they mean like the Cosmere, the 19 books we've talked about. Some are trilogies, some are quadrilogies, some are standalone. And I do know that they're set in not on the planet, but in the universe.
Yes.
But I don't know if this is an example of his world building, where he says, this guy's a pirate. I don't think I've thought of the ocean once in this book. And at no point have you talked about the sea.
They talked about the sea twice. Once at the beginning when Serene arrived by boat.
Right.
And at the end, because the armada of Theod has now been stuck inside the port.
I'm going to use my second Lord of the Rings bring up conversation. There's a scene in the films. I guess I've seen the films more than I've read the books. At this stage, they blur.
It's okay. You're younger than me. That's okay. That's fine.
A scene where Aragorn rocks up with the Ghost Army, and they're on boats, and it always just feels like, what is this weird set piece that is just comes from nowhere? It's like I guess it's more of a river, lake, canal thing. But I've always thought this scene of them rocking up on boats just stands out for some random reason, other than this is the ocean, we're on huge ships. We've never seen it. We've never talked about it. We didn't see a Pirates of the Caribbean style ghost ship with the rig. These 4 or 5 ships.
Don't bring that back, Monsieur Scott. Don't bring that back. We shall not talk about this movie.
But so, I guess there's just stuff like that within this book where there's just, the pirate one is just an example, I think, of one. And it felt like there was a handful of, there's this that exists, and we're not going to dive into. I guess for a book with so much exposition, it's crazy that you have so many lasting questions.
Anderson, we have questions!
I guess what excites me is that, although I did find it a bit boring, I did overall like this book. I think I do give it a thumbs up. And this is supposed to be the least liked of his Cosmere books, which is promising for the next 15 books on my bookshelf that I liked what is referred to as his worst book. And I do think I sort of caught a few online reviews to see the general view of it. I feel like we've come out as most of the readers of this book. It's okay, but it has its flaws, and structure, and the middle act is certainly something that a lot of people are finding wrong with this. Can I just see your cover of the book you have?
I think it's the same.
Okay, because I've known that he did a re-release anniversary, and a
Oh.
few deleted scenes and a few tie-ins. There's a character. I'm guessing, knowing the Cosmere, there's a few of these characters are going to spread out into other books, but there's one which people talk about who's a bit key, who is not named in this book. He's just referred to as, I don't know if this is a spoiler, he's referred to as the Beggar, which I don't know if you remember. I didn't. I had to go through and go,
I think we see it. I think we see it in Warbreaker. I think the story of Warbreaker is that one. Because
his new revision has that character's name.
Oh.
And I guess what I'm picking up is that people love the Cosmere because he doesn't say, "Hey, remember the Beggar from Elantris?" He's just there, and as far as I know, you have to piece together.
No, I know the Beggar. Yeah, I remember the Beggar. He is in this story. He is with his son.
Oh, okay.
And we see him a couple of times. Serene interact with him.
Because I don't remember him. I got to be honest.
It's okay. During the night, she's like going back from that party at Royale, and she's heading back to the...
Oh, that's a big night for her.
And it was a big night, and she's heading back like, oh my God, where's the king? And she's following the king, and Ashley is like, dude, that's not a good idea, and is trying to solve her. And they meet with, I think this is when they meet with the Beggar and their son. It's either her or it's the priest. And the Beggar is like, yeah, we think we're gonna move to another city because this sucks. And the son is like, Dad, stop it. But it's true, it sucks.
And walks away saying, maybe I'll see you again. A wink.
Kind of. And I know we see this figure a couple of times, like the priest interact with him, and Raoden, I think, interact with him as well.
Yeah, I sort of get the essence around the time when she was in the city giving out the food. I think he was hanging around there. I really have no inkling if he was good, bad, if he's like, who's the guy from Stephen King books, like the Man in Black, just spreading around. I guess I don't remember him being maleficent or
it was not
particularly bad.
Or bad or good. It was just there. And for me, it was like, oh, you're there to remind us 10 years ago. Life was good.
Yeah.
I remember. I was in my 30s by then. And I had hope. And then.
I guess at this stage, I have no idea if he planned for the Cosmere, because I was reading, this is his 11th book, but his first published. He just kept getting turned down.
Oh, interesting. But no, it was pretty cool. Like you said, I finished the book and I was kind of missing some of the guy. And I was like, oh, I want to write fan fiction about Hatton now.
Right.
And this, my friend, is a very good compliment.
Yeah,
if someone wants to do fan art or write fan fiction about your work, it's an homage.
I mean, I've certainly finished books and within a few days have forgotten about it.
Yeah.
And so to be meditating on the characters, that's a good sign.
It's a good sign. It stays with you. I think that's a very good thing about Sanderson writing, is the character stays with you. And as you say, if you a few days after you're still thinking about it and your brain is still in the story, it means it did a good job of bringing you in. And maybe his other work, like the flaws are less visible and you jump into the story quicker and there's more showing and less telling. Like,
right.
We understand why Elantris was amazing.
Because I feel like this 600 pages is kind of average of everything he's done until we get to the Bloom and Stormlight archive, and then he doubles it. But
yeah,
that's 14 books away. The only other thing I have a note on is the magic system. I don't know if I just need to read more to get it. And I did like it. It didn't feel super, super unique, but I liked it. There's the magic system like, and then the wand with the hands.
Yeah, it felt a bit like, oh, I'm going to do another reference, a Star Wars reference. It felt like the Force. It felt a lot like Jedi and the Sith Lord. Like, you can use the Force for good or for bad, and this has an influence and has an impact.
Certainly with Raoden learning it, a la Luke Skywalker learning those first tentative steps, like just doing tricks and learning it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And you have the motion. And what I enjoy is, okay, People, turn off your mic here, turn off your ear, because I'm going to reveal a tiny little spoiler.
the book's from 2005. We can push a few in.
Oh, dude, I work with a lady that didn't know that Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And she was really impressed, like, oh my God, it's his dad. And like, but yeah, no, it felt like the Force. And I remember, oh my God, and that's going to make me sound old, but that reminds me a lot of my philosophy class when I was in college, because philosophy was mandatory. If you're a French Canadian,
I did not know that.
Yes, it was mandatory. You had 4 years of philosophy to go through. Yay. And my first teacher that was teaching introduction to philosophy was a very avid reader and a fan of Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
And his way of teaching was a bit weird, but it worked. See,
30
years later, I can still remember.
Shout out
class.
to the teacher.
So shout out, teacher. You were amazing. You scared me a lot, but you were amazing. And basically, the Force, and I'm going to use the Force as reference, and in the same way it is used here in this book, is the energy that is surrounding everything. That is the breath of life, basically. So Elantris is using it in a way. The Elantrians are using it in a way. And basically, the Force choose, like the Shea, they're going to choose who they're going to be incarnating. They're going to be using as vessel. Basically, Elantrians are vessel of the Force. But because something happened, the Force is trapped inside the body, is trapped inside everything. And that's why everything is decaying, because they're kind in the middle of a transformation that can't happen.
We sort of do get a very good answer to what's been going on with the whole, like the reason why Elantrian fell. It's pretty sad. I did like the gradual, the realization, the coming to it, and the climax of that part of the story. I kind of really liked that. That was amazing.
That was amazing. Like, oh
yeah, and it made sense, right? Like it really felt like, okay, you know what, that really works. It doesn't feel like he wrote himself into a hole and had to sort of, bodge his way out of it.
That was thought out. Wow.
Right.
Okay. My hat to you, Monsieur Sanderson.
Right. Yeah.
But I like the fact that, okay, yes, the Sudera follower can use it as well, and they're using it in a different way into their own body. And then you have Shitten, who can do like Tai Chi and is moving the life force around. And that is, well, that one time I took a Tai Chi class, that was the principle. Basically, when you move, you have to envision the energy moving from one movement to the other. So it's basically, okay, everyone has this general concept of what is the life force, but every religion or country use it differently. And you have people that just don't give a shit and like, I want to make money.
Right. Yeah.
And I'm hungry. I want to go to have food and like very basic concern. But I mean, come on, food is everything.
All right. I'm definitely look forward to the next book. You're on Warbreaker, right? You've jumped. I mean, I started because as far as I know, like there's no reason to read it in order.
Yeah.
And there's trilogies, which themselves are book 1, 2, 3, but I think Warbreaker is like the 7th book he's released. I've looked into it, and you can read the order you wish, because it doesn't tie in. What's the word? It doesn't tie in a continuity sense.
Yeah.
Of now and then, as far as I know. I mean, you've read some pages of Warbreaker. You know more about the Cosmere than me.
No, I read the introduction. I'm still on the introduction. Like, okay.
Because I was like, I think I want to read them in order, just because.
Probably will read it again. Sometimes I enjoy, like I said, I enjoy rereading this book, because depending on where you are in life, sometimes you catch things that you didn't catch the first time, or other time you're like, oh, I really enjoyed it, and like, why did I enjoy it again? And you
right.
Look at your past self with fondness and like, I was stupid.
I mean, I feel like the rate he goes and the size of his books, I will always feel like I need to read the next one. Like I need to read all of them before I come back. And like Stephen King, if you're a regular listener here, me and Toby have covered a lot of the King. When am I going to get to reread if he keeps putting them out?
Otherwise, we're starting Gabriel K. We go for Canadian now.
Oh yeah, all right.
Proud Canadian.
Dive into my summer tree.
Yes, join me with the Fiona Bar tapestry. The tree of summer.
Hey, we're going to wrap it up around there. I want to thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.